So I haven't looked in a while, and I don't know if there's a video out there on this or not yet, but I know that when I was going through the process, it wasn't there, and it was confusing and complicated for me. Once you figure it out, it's not all that complicated, but you don't know what you don't know. This is a Briggs & Stratton 20 kilowatt generator. It's great, runs the whole house, and it used to be hooked up to a automatic transfer switch. When the power would go out, it would just turn on and power the house. Well, then when we got the solar, we went with the EG418KPV that has a generator port to hook up the generator, which is awesome. But trying to figure out how to use it as an automatic switch was complicated and confusing. I didn't feel like there was great direction on it. So the generator, this one in particular, and I can't speak to other generators. I know there's different ways that they are hooked up, but this one had 4 wires. It had 2 110 volt wires and 2 low voltage wires. The low voltage wires were just communication wires between the generator and the automatic transfer switch. And then the 110 volt wires, each one of them is monitoring power, and if one of them loses power, the generator turns on, and that's the way the automatic transfer switch works. Those things lose power, generator turns on, powers the house. So what I ended up doing, and it's worked out really well, is I used a RIB, or relay in a box, so just a small prepackaged relay, and have run those wires, one of those wires, through that relay as part of the way of turning on the power when it goes out. Let me rephrase that. So still have the 2 wires. I got rid of the low voltage wires, but I have 2 110 volt wires coming into this. It's going through my inverter over here, which we'll see, and then it goes to our panel. So the 110 volts, 2 wires are running through here. One of the wires is connected to this relay, and then they both run into the house and are hooked up to separate breakers. The relay is connected to 12 volts here on the circuit board. So you can see I've got a wire coming in here, and then I've got the 12 volt to the 12 volt positive. I got the 12 volt negative coming over here to the normally closed portion, and then I've got the common coming out and going back to the relay. So, and I know this is pretty simple stuff for most of you, but for those that don't understand, a relay is simply a wall switch that you don't use your finger on, and it's just monitoring power, and you can hook it up one of 2 ways. There's power running through it, and when power goes out, it turns on whatever it is it's connected to, or there's no power running through it, and when power turns on, it turns on whatever it's connected to. So the way it works right now is I've got power running from my panel through my relay to my generator. As soon as that power turns off, it will cause this switch to click over, which tells my generator to turn on. Now I have my inverter set up right now to charge my batteries off the grid at 20%. So when my batteries get down to 20%, the grid will turn on, and you'll see I start charging my batteries. If for some reason the grid were down and I get to 20%, well, it can't do that. And so as soon as my batteries drop down to 19%, that relay will then click open, which will turn my generator on and charge my batteries back up to 100%. Turn off at 100% and do the same thing. When the grid turns back on, my batteries will drop down to 20%, and then the grid will charge it. The generator will never turn back on, but if the grid wasn't back on, they'll go all the way down to 19%, and then the generator turns on and charges the batteries. That's it.
Yep. And this has been especially comforting with the recent power outage and the possibility of there being long-term outages.
Right, that whole CrowdStrike nonsense, it's just one more thing that makes us realize that we're heading in the right direction, not relying on anybody else more than we have to, right? We don't have some giant homestead out in the middle of nowhere. Right? It's not like we're living off the land by any means, but to be able to rely on them less is better.